Germany has a very separated educational system. It starts in kindergarten, where there's not a big differentiation between people with handicap and without handicap being made. And then you get to school, and in school you normally already have the so-called Sonderschule, which is for people with disabilities, and the regular school system, which is for people all kind of intellects. And so you start separating fairly early. After the normally 4th, 5th grade, there is a absolute separation between people that want to go to university, that want to stay in regular school or do an apprentice, and people with disability that go to the Sonderschule, which you already separated in 5th grade regularly. Nowadays, you have the right to switch from one to the other school, but it rarely happens. For people with disabilities, then in the Sonderschule, depending on what school system you are in, you have people with intellectual disabilities that get a different support than people with regular handicaps, or for blind people we have special schools. So you separate it fairly early and very specific by your handicap and very specific by what you're going to do afterwards. Legally, you're allowed to, and more Grundschulen, as we call them, so the primary schools, they do it more and more, that they take students with disabilities, like for example, a little boy with Down syndrome from 1st to 5th grade is schooled in the regular school with all the other kids. People with social handicaps, or that have emotional difficulties or psychological difficulties earlier, some of them are also schooled in regular schools. And you get support for them, extra people in the class, extra assistance for the teachers to do something like that, but it's not the average person. Separation and the assessment is very much on the medical field instead of on the emotional and intellectual field. So if you need to be supported, most of the time it's very much medically analyzed, not so much on the emotional level. In the supportive system, so in the school for handicapped people, you have a very strong support for them to start practical things, to see what they're interested in, and then you have the sheltered workshops, which are by no means comparable to any other sheltered workshops around the world. You have those to check into areas, to look into whether you want to become a cook, whether you want to go into gardening, whether you want to go into fields that are very manual labor. So you can early on look into the work environments there. And most of the time it's done with school interns for 3 to 6 weeks, looking into it while you're still a student at school. And they start as early as like with 14, 15 to look into jobs. And then of course when it gets closer to 16, 18, when it's clear when they leave school, then you have more and more of those interns. You have the right to get your education after school and to get a good education. If you're handicapped and you go to the sheltered workshop, you have the Berufsbildungsbereich, which is like a program of 2 years and 3 months, normally 3 months of assessment and then 1 year and then another year of educating the person specific to their needs and to what they want to do, to their needs. And then you have the opportunity, that's the protected area, and you can do that outside the sheltered workshops too, which in using the personal budget, if you want to. Then you have to find some business that will help you educate you, which is a lot more effort, but it is possible to do it outside the system too, in a regular business environment for handicapped people. And then of course you have the regular paths you have, which are a little bit more supported. That's the Berufsbildungswerke, where you do a normal apprenticeship, but which is state regulated and which you then get a special facility, but at the end you have an education that is accepted commonly. And of course you have the normal environment where you just do an apprenticeship and you get your education the normal way, like everybody else would get it without a disability, but very few people are capable of doing that. I mean, to improve is to be more oriented for the people, to start thinking from the perspective of people more than from the organizational point of view, because a lot of these organizations forget that they have to deal with individuals, and to look out of the perspective from an individual again is very, very important, because sheltered workshops have to have 120 spots, they have to be filled. Then the other places, they have spots that have to be filled instead of needs of people that have to be fulfilled. So I think that that the organization that's behind it in Germany and the legal rights that people have, they are a good framework, but they have to be taken alive or made alive and be used so that people really profit from it, because the opportunities are there, but they're not being used that much.
Hello, my name is Idema. I am responsible for the extra support for our students of the GroeneWelle in Holland. It's our challenge to make the link between school, education and professional support. Here you see what I mean. What can they do by themselves and where do they need extra support? Every student has the right to get the proper education and the proper support, with or without a diagnosis. Sometimes we see a mixture of those problems. Here you see the care structure of the GroeneWelle. In our structure of support, we have professional specialists like a pedagogue and coordinators. Sometimes it's good to make a plan on a long term, and sometimes it's good we decide to make a short, intensive support plan. We don't consider the problems, we are not focused on that, but we try to help and we try to handle the problems. What kind of problems do I mean? Well, there are learning problems like dyslexia, dyscalculation, or physical, emotional, social problems like fear, distrust, concentration. We have physical problems, as in society we have home front problems like divorce, home violence and all sorts of behavior. We confront misbehavior in all kinds of different levels, and other problems like radicalization, self-destruction and all these kind of problems. What is our challenge? Our challenge is, of course, to make a link between school, so education, student and ecological environment. Especially in the practical work setting, we're able to give fitting education. That's our proper goal. The central issue is to focus on possibilities and not on handicaps, because they have the right, as you can see, they have the right of proper education. How do we do that? We can make an individual plan. We have a digital plan in our follow system, and we empower them. And that is the main thing we want to do, to get a self-conscious student who is able to work for men and animals. And that's the thing.
Good morning, my name is Patrizia Gabrielli. I'm a support teacher and I work at the Istituto Tecnico Economico F.Scarpellini in Foligno. I'm going to talk about the Law 104, dated 1992. Law number 104 represents a real excellence for Italy, having provided full integration and established the right to training and education in ordinary sections and classes for all pupils with disabilities, stating that the exercise of this right cannot be prevented by learning disorders or other difficulties derived from impairments related to the handicap. Although there is still room for improvement in terms of organization and quality of the service, the experience of integration has ensured strong cultural and social growth of disadvantaged people and has contributed to the diffusion of a new culture of inclusion. The demand for training and employment has led to the creation of individualized paths aimed at achieving targeted training, as well as employment placement adequate to the capacity of each individual. A working role is one of the main factors of personal and social identity for everyone. But currently, access to work is still a problem for the weaker subjects. Therefore, it is fundamental to develop projects that allow these people real access to the labor market, across paths that allow attainment of adequate operational skills and interpersonal relationships. Training on site can be achieved through individual or small group internships and in normal work situations, with the final objective of allowing the disadvantaged person to follow a path of socialization and personalized employment professionalization. Training paths for orientation in a work situation must provide the alternation of activities which are educational, instructive, professional, and of indicative guidance, conducted in the school environment and in the extracurricular field, using the school and territory resources integrally, and fostering the following factors: activities within the class, individualized interventions at school, creation of laboratories, company internships, and use of territorial resources. Because having acquired the skills and competences corresponding to his abilities, a pupil with mental and physical problems of an average degree then has the need to apply them in society and in the labor market. Thank you.